What is up, my bodyweight warriors, and welcome back to another video. And today I've got a treat for you. Strength, mobility, or flexibility. Can you develop both at the same time? Yes is of course the answer, but how do you go about doing it effectively? This is one of the questions I get asked all the time. So I thought I would make a short mini series on a couple of example workouts of how you can combine the two to get the most effective results. Today we're going to be looking at a lower body workout to develop both hamstring and also squat flexibility. Now what I will do for all the exercises in this routine is I'll provide a bodyweight only version and a weighted version. There is no right or wrong. I think the weighted version, if you have weights, you may as well use them. They are going to be a better tool for the application we're after, but you can also do a bodyweight as I'll demo in today's video. So let's jump straight into it. The first exercise pairing we're going to be taking a look at is going to be looking at flexibility, but it's going to be mostly around strengthening. We're going to start off with the king of lower body strength and flexibility movements, and that is the split squat. We're going to be using a front foot elevation on the split squat so we can emphasize the development of range of motion of that front leg in deep knee flexion, which would be at the bottom of a squat position. The main difference with this split squat to a normal lunge is that the movement isn't just up and down like an elevator, it is diagonally up and down like an escalator. We want to have a focus on pushing that front knee over that front foot and really emphasizing that deep knee flexion to help develop that flexibility in the bottom of a squat. This is also going to help condition the knee and strengthen the knee, so it's going to be actually better at resistance to injury. The bodyweight only version we can do of this is essentially just a high step up. Now when you're doing the step up, there's one important rule to follow. We're going to try and load that working leg. So what we don't want to do is use the assisting leg too much. So to prevent this, you're going to try and lift the toes of that assisting leg when you go to perform the step up. This is going to encourage you to use that leg less and put more load and more emphasis over that front leg, similar to how we load the weighted split squat, which is the other alternative for this exercise. We're going to perform this one at a tempo of 3-1-1-0, which means we're going to take 3 seconds down to the bottom, pause for a second, and then 1 second back up. You're going to perform this one for 6 to 8 repetitions per side. And it's going to be paired directly with the next exercise, which is the natural hamstring curl. The natural hamstring curl is one of the most effective ways to strengthen that knee flexion position for the hamstrings. The main challenge for this exercise is adjusting load, because it's not quite as simple as using a lying leg curl on the machine where we can incrementally increase weight. We're going to start off with this exercise with just performing a hip hinge position. So this is when we are kneeling with those ankles locked in place, and we're going to focus on keeping the knee angle constant and then just having the movement come from the hinging of the hips up and down. As we feel a little bit stronger in this position, we can start to slowly extend that body position out a little bit. The closer we get to straighter, the harder this is going to become. In fact, it becomes infinitely harder when you get to a full straight position. So just work up to it progressively. One thing we can do to try and overload this movement is to go down in the hardest position we can, so as close to straight as we can, really slow that negative down. As we get to the floor, just reduce that slightly, use the hands to help you back up, and then push back to that top position. We're going to perform this one for 4 to 6 repetitions, and we're going to use a 4-0-1-0 tempo. So that means 4 seconds nice and slowed down, and then 1 second back up to that starting position. These two exercises, you're going to go back and forth, and you can perform anywhere from 4 to 5 sets. Now we're going to move to a quad set, so 4 exercises combined together that's going to look at developing both the strength and range of motion, but more of a focus on range of motion. The first exercise we're going to do is a hamstring rock and roll. Now this exercise is from my app Tribe, which by the way is chocked full of routines both for strength and flexibility, whether you're working on mass gain, bodyweight skills, you're a beginner, whether you want to build the middle splits, the pancake, or even the handstand, we've got routines for you in that app, which I'll link in the description. So the hip flexor rock and roll is going to work on opening up those hips, similar to how we did with the split squat. The key with this exercise is going to be activation of the glute and the hamstring. So we're going to start with the leg bent and the knee placed close to the wall. Now the closer to the wall the knee is, the harder this exercise becomes. When doing this exercise, we don't want too much of a stretch initially. We want to be able to sit comfortably in that lunge position. From here, you're going to push those hips forward, but the key and the initiator for the hips forward is similar to that of the split squat. You're going to try and push that knee forward over the toe, and you're going to really try to squeeze the glute and the hamstring hard of the back leg to help push those hips forward. We're going to go down into a stretch for 3 or 4 seconds, hold that position, and then shift back the hips towards the wall. The idea here is to use that glute and the hamstring of the back leg to keep pushing that hip deeper and deeper into the stretch for a total of 8 to 10 repetitions with a tempo of 1-4-1-0. So that's just 1 second down, hold that bottom position, really squeezing the glute for 4 seconds, and then come back up. We're going to be following up this exercise with a fantastic bodyweight only exercise for the quads, and that is the sissy squat. The sissy squat goes against a lot of those traditional beliefs about not letting the knees pass over the toes, but hopefully we've got past that if you've already passed the first exercise, because it's not a bad thing. In fact, I'm working on a massive video trying to cover this topic in depth with some experts. The sissy squat is a fantastic way of conditioning the quads, and specifically VMO, to help with that knees over toe position, which is actually really, really common in pretty much all sports. You're going to determine the difficulty of this exercise initially by stability. So you can start by using a pole to aid with the movement as you shift down going onto the toes. If this is still hard, then you can choose to use a partial range of motion in which you try to touch your knees to an object that is higher than just the ground. As we develop strength here and stability here, we can choose to take away a little bit of the assistance, just using it as and when we need to perform the exercise. The key with the sissy squat is the same as the hip flexor rock and roll. We want to make sure we keep that glute engaged to set those hips to a slight posterior pelvic tilt, so you can, one, get a stretch over the hip flexors, but also help stabilize those hips during the movement. You're going to be performing this one for 10 to 12 reps, and we're going to be using a 3-0-1-0 tempo, which means we're going to take nice and slow 3 seconds all the way down and then push back up to that top position. Hopefully you should have, a decent quad pump at this point and feel the hips start to open. Now we're going to look at developing a little bit of hamstring range of motion for our next exercise, which is the seated pike core compressions. Now, if you don't know this exercise already, you're going to learn to hate it real soon. For this one, we're going to sit in the floor and we're going to come forward into our max pike position. From here, we're going to just take a little step out, and then the idea from here is to lift the feet up. Now, we want to be able to make sure that we can lift the feet at least 5 to 10 centimeters in the air. If you can't lift it that much, then you need to then move the hands further back. If you can lift it higher than that, you need to move the hands further forward. Tempo and form is going to be king with this exercise to make it hard. Yes, we can just perform reps after rep after rep and then just use momentum to do this exercise. But what we're going to try and do is we're going to do the same 8 to 10 repetitions that we did with the hip flexor rock and roll, but we're also going to use the same tempo, and that is going to be a 1-0-1-4 tempo. And this means that what we're going to do is we're going to lift up and then we're going to hold that position for 4 seconds. This is going to make things infinitely worse, but also infinitely better when it comes to making some flexibility gains. This exercise is then going to be paired with the final exercise, which is a standing single leg good morning. Like the sissy squat, stability is going to be initially a little bit of a limiting factor here. So the easiest way to make this exercise more stable is to lower the center of mass, which means that instead of using something like a barbell to perform this exercise, we would instead use something like holding a kettlebell or holding some weight that is lower to the ground. But that being said, I do personally think this exercise is performed best when using a barbell on the back. For this exercise, the one thing that's really important is that is a hip hinge. So the movement is going to come from the hips. So maintaining that nice back arch, we're going to also maintain the leg in line with the body. And we're going to push the hips back and just hinge the chest forward. You want to lower the torso until you feel a nice stretch on that hamstring. You're going to pause in that position, and then you're just going to press back and reset. The key to this exercise is knowing when to stop that range of motion. Yes, we can push this range of motion a little bit further, but then we're going to move potentially into a little bit of spinal flexion when the blur back starts to round, and it's going to kind of lose the point of this exercise, which is that hip hinge. You also want to watch out for any twisting that's going on, and this is when one hip will shift to be higher than another. You're going to perform this one for the same as a sissy squat, and that is 10 to 12 repetitions, and we're going to be using a 2-2-1-0 tempo, which means we're going to be going down for 2 seconds, pausing for 2 seconds in the max stretch position, and then going back up in 1 second to the starting position. You should have the nice quad pump going already. This one will give you the nice hamstring and glute pump. So we're going to perform that quad set, those final 4 exercises, for a total of 3 to 4 sets. Like the first exercise, you can kind of determine this one based on your own ability to recover and how much volume you personally like to do. But that is basically going to be the workout. It's short and sweet, but there is plenty of suffering in there. And the main thing is that it is focused. It's going to develop both strength and flexibility for the lower body in that squat and hamstring position. I know a lot of people are going to get a lot of good out of this routine if they just, stick to it and do it. I promise you that. If you don't necessarily fancy this one, if you want to focus on something else, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, I do of course have my app Tribe, in which I'm trying to put an effort into putting more of these programs into it. We've obviously got all the specific flexibility routines and also the other skills and strength ones. But with that being said, I would love to hear your thoughts on this episode. If you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comment section down below. And if you did enjoy it a lot, then if this video gets 1,000 thumbs up, I will release the upper body version of this workout so they work as a pair. And of course, so you don't miss out on that upper body version when we do hit 1,000 likes, then make sure you hit that subscribe button as well and join the Bodyweight Warrior Tribe. But that has been it for this week, guys. I will catch you in the next episode. Have a strong week and peace.